Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of the Noble Crumb. My name is Jason. So I was laying on the couch on my day off the other day and I had probably one of the most intense chocolate cravings that I've ever had. And all that would really satisfy that craving was chocolate cake, but not just any old basic chocolate cake. I wanted something super dark, super rich, just oozing with chocolate flavor. And so I made one of my favorite chocolate cakes that I wanted to share the recipe with you. It's really simple, really easy. There's a couple tricks to learn, but I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. So here's everything you're going to need for our chocolate cake. So here's all the ingredients that you're going to need for the chocolate cake. 2 cups of sugar, 1 3/4 cups of flour, 3/4 of a cup of cocoa, 1 1/2 teaspoons of baking soda, 1 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, 2 eggs, 1 cup of buttermilk, 1/2 cup of oil, 1 1/2 teaspoons of vanilla, and 1 cup of hot coffee or boiling water, your choice. Just make sure that it's super hot. And we're going to bake it at 350 for 25 to 30 minutes. So with regards to either using hot water or hot coffee, the reason we're adding a hot liquid in it, it enhances the flavor of the cocoa, plus the steam that it creates also creates extra moisture in the cake, which makes the cake even that much better, trust me. You can use either water or coffee, whatever you'd like. Coffee just really tends to bring out that taste of chocolate, which is just absolutely fantastic. But just make sure that the liquid, when you're using it, it's hot. When I used the coffee, I took it right out of the pot and I popped it in the microwave for an extra 30 seconds just to make sure it was piping hot, and you add it right at the end. And that's the trick to a really moist and delicious chocolate cake. Okay, so I have my stand mixer bowl here, and I just put my little strainer over top because we're going to sift in our dry ingredients first. So this is going to go really quick and easy. So to this, I'm going to add 2 cups of white sugar. There's 2. Get that in there. Then we're going to add in 1 3/4 cups of flour. There's 1. There's a half. Excuse my noise. And a 1/4 cup, so that's 1 3/4 cups of flour. Start shaking that down. Now for the cocoa, we're going to add 3/4 of a cup of cocoa. Obviously, we like to say use the best kind you can get. There's 1, 2, if I can get it out. And 3. 3/4 of a cup of cocoa. And then we're going to add in our baking powder. So 1 1/2 teaspoons of baking powder. And then we're going to add in also 1 1/2 teaspoons of baking soda. Here's my half. One. There we go. And 1 teaspoon of salt. If my salt wants to come out, I'm having issues. There we go. 1 teaspoon of salt. Get that all sifted through. Press through all those lumps of the cocoa. I mean, God, this smells so good already. I love cocoa powder so much. Mind you, I think I just love anything chocolate, period. It's kind of a problem. Okay. All that is in there. Done. Now we'll move on to the wet ingredients. Okay, so I've added my mixing bowl to my stand mixer and I've hooked up my paddle attachment here. So we're going to add our wet ingredients. So we're going to start with adding 2 eggs. And then my favorite ingredient for most cakes is buttermilk. So I'm going to add 1 cup of buttermilk to this. If you don't have buttermilk, you can use half milk, half sour cream works really good. Buttermilk is just always fantastic, gives it that little bit of acidity. And then after that, we're going to add a half a cup of vegetable oil. And if I was more prepared, I would have already had this measured out, but I don't, so bear with me for 2 seconds here. There we go, so half a cup of oil. Then we're going to add a little bit of vanilla. So we'll add 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla. 1. And we'll eyeball the half. All right, so at this point now, we're going to turn this on, if I can find the handle, and we're going to let this mix up for about 2 minutes. So once it's come together like this, I'm going to turn it on to about a medium speed now, and we'll let that go for 2 minutes. All right, so it's been 2 minutes. I'm going to give this a nice scrape down and get all the way down to the bottom if there's anything that's still kind of stuck up there. But the smell of this, if you're not a chocolate fan already, this will get you. Okay, now we're going to add in one last ingredient. I'm adding 1 cup of super hot coffee. You can add simply just a cup of boiling water if you want. Coffee just enhances the overall flavor of chocolate, and it's absolutely fantastic. So now we're going to mix this in. And again, start slow. You don't want this to splash everywhere. Give this another quick scrape down and get right underneath to the bottom, because your batter will sink to the bottom. You want to make sure everything is nicely incorporated. It is going to be a thinner batter, so that's okay, don't stress. And once this has been scraped again, now we'll give it one final mix to make sure everything is good. I'm just going to grab a knife so I can scrape off my spatula here, because I don't want to waste any of this batter. There we go. One more mix. That looks good, so now we're going to add this to our pans. Okay, so I am using 2 10-inch pie pans today. You can use 3 8-inch or 9-inch pans, whatever you want. But today I just want to have 2 nice layers of about 10 each. So I'm just going to take a measuring cup and start separating the batter between the 2 cake pans. Right, I'm gonna get my spatula working here. Just like that. And we'll start scraping out the bowl. Just like that. And that is it. So I am going to now move these to the oven, which is set at 350. And these guys, I'm going to check after about 20 minutes. Obviously, it'll depend on the thickness of the batter in the cake. So just keep your eyes on it until a toothpick comes out clean. Okay, so after 23 minutes, my cakes are done. They look so good. So we're going to let these cool in the pan for about 10 minutes, and then I'll flip them out and let them cool down to room temperature completely. And here are the ingredients for the chocolate ganache. For this, you can use it as either just a filling in the middle and use a buttercream on the top, or like I did, I chose to use it in both the middle and the top because I just thought it worked so well together. So you'll need 8 ounces of chocolate or chocolate chips. I'm using chocolate chips, 1 cup of whipping cream, and then you're going to let this cool down to the desired thickness is reached for however you want to use it. I let it cool down and I stuck it in the fridge for a little bit just to get it super thick. Okay, so for our ganache filling, I've got a 2-cup measure here. To this, I'm going to add 1 pack of dark chocolate chips, so that's about 8 ounces. And then to that, I've got 1 cup of full-fat cream, and it is super hot. So you're just going to pour this over your chocolate. And that's it. You're going to leave this for about 5 minutes for it all to melt down, and then you'll mix it up, and that's it for your ganache. Okay, so after 5 minutes of it sitting there, you can start mixing it up, and it'll come together really nice. Change into a nice deep dark chocolate here. Look at that. So now, once I'm done mixing this, I'm going to let this cool down to room temperature because I want this to be really thick and spreadable, almost like, like a peanut butter type consistency. If you wanted to, you could pour this over the cake right now, excuse me, at this liquid stage. But I want this to be a nice center filling for the cake. So I'm going to leave this in here and just cool down to room temperature, which could take about an hour or so. And then we'll put that in the middle layer of our cake. But look at how beautiful that is. And that's done. Now when it comes to the filling, what I did, I was originally just going to make this ganache filling to go in the middle of the cake, and then I was going to do a buttercream over top. But once I tasted the chocolate ganache, for me, it was just, because I used a dark chocolate chip, it had that kind of bitter note that I really, really love in my chocolate cake. And so I had way more than enough left over to do the middle, and I just did that on top. So I left off a buttercream icing. Obviously, feel free, go for it, make it fancier, but this just tasted perfect as it was. Okay, so my cake is cooled completely to room temperature, so I'm just going to flip it onto my serving plate. And that came out real nice. Now I can't believe how dark this cake turns out. It looks so nice. So now I'm going to take my ganache. So I let it cool to room temperature, and then I actually put it in the fridge for an hour and just kept an eye on it, mixing it until it got to this thick consistency that you see here. This is just the right the right consistency that I want to spread it in the middle of my cake. And because this ganache, to my taste, is just so fantastic, I am not going to do a buttercream on top. I'm just going to use the rest of this ganache and put another layer of it on top because it's so rich and full of dark chocolate flavor that it, with this cake, is just going to be amazing. And not overly sweet, which is what I like. So I'm just going to smooth this all the way to the edge. And then I'm going to grab my other cake layer here. Just flip it out and add it to this one. Just line it up a little bit. Isn't that color fantastic? I love this dark color. All right. Now I'm going to take the last half of my ganache and I'm going to just spread this around on top. Just scrape down my bowl. Grab a spoon. Sorry, it gets really thick in this container I had it in. All right. There we go. Just dab the rest of this in the middle. And then with my offset spatula, I'm just going to spread this around and kind of give it a bit of a swirl effect and try to make it look as pretty as possible. Now, again, if you want to make this a sweeter and fancier cake, by all means, make a nice buttercream, do whatever flavor you want, add berries to it, and you can pipe a nice buttercream design on top. But again, this is kind of, I baked this one on a bit of a whim, so I'm just doing this a quick way and just spreading this ganache all over the place. Sorry, my camera angles aren't the best right now. The usual workspace I use is occupied at the moment, so I'm doing this just on my kitchen counter, and there is not a lot of space. Just going to keep swirling my spatula around and give it a little scrape off, because I don't want to waste any of this. And I think that looks pretty darn good. Smooth out a few of these spots and swirl in a bit more. And I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to let this go into the fridge for a couple hours just to set up, and then I'm going to dive into it. Okay, so my cake has been in the fridge for a couple hours just to give the ganache and everything a chance to set up. So let's cut into this and see what it looks like. I can still smell such a great amount of chocolate coming out of this thing. And I'm cutting myself a big piece because I am a chocoholic and do not know my limits. This is coming out super easy. Look at that. You can see our beautiful ganache layer in the middle, the swirled ganache on top. And I am going to enjoy this. And that is my super simple, super dark, super rich chocolate cake that I honestly know you guys are going to love. Let me know what you think of the recipe. If you guys have some recipes that you think were really good for chocolate cake, I am always looking for new ones. But I really hope you enjoyed it. Thank you again for joining me on this episode of The Noble Crumb. I will see you guys next time. Bye.